Welcome. My name is Cheryl Lara Lane.
Hi, I'm Mia Damiani, and welcome to our presentation of Teaching English Language Learners Online. Teaching English Language Learners Online is a helpful website you can use to access resources for your ELL students in your online classroom. If you've had an ELL student online, please press this button and share your experience with us. We'd love to hear the experiences that you've had with your ELL students, some strategies that may have worked, success, or maybe if you need some support as well. Please feel free to share. Who are your ELL students? ELL stands for English Language Learners, and you can identify your ELL students if they were born outside of an English-speaking country or born within the U.S. but raised in a non-English speaking household. Those are just some ways that we identify ELL students in the elementary school setting. Additionally, you can click here for more information regarding identifying ELL students. Also, the Arizona Department of Education uses the Primary Home Language Survey in the elementary school setting as well, and you can click here for the float form that is used to identify ELL students. At the university level, since there is not a specific process to identify ELL students, we must look for other ways to depend on whether or not they are an ELL student and could use some additional support. You may look for, within their biography setting, you can look at their information regarding where they were born. Maybe they had another language experience. Maybe they stated specifically they're English language learners. So please feel free to look at their biography information for more clues as to whether or not they could use some additional support. Why do you need to know if your students are ELL in the online classroom? It's important because many students experience difficulties with their academic writing in the university setting when they have an English language learning background. It's important to identify them because they will need some additional support, some additional resources, and some extra guidance along the way. This will help with retention as well as language proficiency with our university level students. Right here you can look at the characteristics of ELL students. It's a helpful resource that you can click right here and will identify behaviors and indicators and other characteristics of your ELL students in your online classroom. Below, you may test your knowledge on the following 3 scenarios to identify an ELL student online. Please feel free to read each scenario and then click yes or no. Hit the submit button and we will give you immediate feedback regarding what your response indicated.
Now I welcome you to return to the top of the page and click on Common Myths. There are many common myths regarding ELL students and what helps them learn English faster. The first one is that students learn English quickly through exposure and interaction. And while that is true, exposure and interaction with English-speaking peers is helpful, that's a myth. There are other ways for them to learn English that's more quickly. Students need to understand the basic structures of our language in order to write for multiple purposes, especially in the online college classroom. They need to write in academic language. If you click on this, syntax rules, we will be coming to this in a few moments, and this is one resource you can use to help give feedback to your students to improve their writing in your classroom. Another myth is that conversing in English equals academic proficiency. And while conversational competencies are important, academic competence is equally important, if not more important, in the online college classroom. So busting this myth, we need to help our students understand more higher levels of academic vocabulary, and we need to support their understanding of academic vocabulary terms that we use in our classroom. If you click on this 6-step method, it was developed by Robert Marzano. It's an excellent way to help support your online ELL students in attaining a higher level of academic vocabulary. The third myth is that students need to learn English before taking college courses, and while a certain level of English is definitely helpful in supporting their online learning experience, there are many supports we can put in place to further support their learning. So using visuals and presentation resources is a great way that we can enhance our instruction and provide examples through the use of creative resources. So if you click on this right here, it will take you to a resource that will help you design these alternative methods of working with your students. The final myth that we would like to bust is that ESL students should only use English, not their primary language. Whenever students have an opportunity to converse in their primary language, it strengthens their literacy skills in that language. Literacy skills are transferable from one language to the other. There are many commonalities between the English language and other languages, and if you click right here, you will find a very useful tool that outlines some of these similarities, and you can use this as another way of supporting your ELL students online by either using this for feedback purposes or for your own knowledge of how to support their particular language. If you scroll down further, there is a clip that we've included from I Love Lucy, and it's specific to pronunciation and using the English language, and I think you'll find this a very fun video to watch that will go over some of the obvious problems that ELL students have in using academic vocabulary and pronunciating words in English. I'd now like to bring you back to the top of the page. If you click on More, you'll see this drop-down menu. I'd like for you to click on syntax rules. I mentioned this earlier in Myth 1, and now I will share this chart with you. This is a basic syntax rules chart. Now, one thing I would like to emphasize is that in the online classroom, in terms of grading, we must always honor the content. Whatever our students have written, we need to focus on the content of their writing. Have they addressed the content that was required in the learning objectives? But however, we may notice grammatical errors in their writing. So if you start to see patterns of errors in their writing, these are some simple tips you can give to your students and copy and paste them in your feedback to them. So for example, if they are not putting an adjective before a noun, you can copy and paste this into their writing as feedback to them to show them that in English the adjectives go before the nouns. And there are several other examples here that you can use. Coordinating conjunctions, and so on and so forth. So hopefully you will find this a useful resource. Another resource that you can access by coming back up to the top, clicking on More, and then scroll down to Verb Tenses. This is the 12 basic tenses. This is a chart for you. It's divided up by simple tenses, progressive, perfect, and the perfect progressive tenses. Notice they get progressively more difficult as you scroll down. What you would want to do here, each box and each tense is divided into the present, past, and future with an explanation of why we use that tense. There's a formula for how to construct a sentence using that particular tense, as well as an accompanying example of a sentence written in that particular tense, and I've included it for the declarative, negative, and interrogative sentence forms. So feel free to use these formulas as further feedback for your students in their writing. You may notice that they are not putting together these sentence types properly, and this is a great way to help them understand how to do that for the present, past, and future. So how would this all look like in feedback? Let me give you an example of that. If you go back up to More and click on Feedback Examples, you'll notice I've taken an excerpt of some student writing, and you'll notice that this particular sentence was not written in the proper grammatical format. So what I've done over here to explain to my students that how to show actions that happened in the past, and I included a formula from the verb tense chart that would help them do this. And I'm showing that they have to add ed. Here we're focusing on the content. So again, I want to emphasize that we do need to remain true to the content that they are writing, but also providing some language support. Down here I also included an example of how to use the verb tense charts to support their language development and their syntactical structural understanding of the language. And then if you click up here on More, we will go down to the blog.
And this is just an interactive blog that you can post questions, feedback regarding the website. If you have any feedback regarding the resources, we'd love to hear from you. Just press the Add Comment button and share your experience with us. Also, if you'd like to contact us directly, go back up to the More button and click on the Contact drop down, and that will give us a little bit of background. That's a little bit of background on us. Also, you can email us directly below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your patience in going through our presentation.